Hey, read through the word. Today is January 15th, and today's lesson is called God's Hand. I'm going to one verse is the very last verse in our reading today. Genesis 41:57, and people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe throughout the world. Okay, here we are. Now, we talked yesterday in our reading that God has a plan. There is no, I always say this, there is no plan B with God. I think there's a lot of people that think the Bible is God keep trying over and over, and that like Jesus is plan B, that we didn't keep the law, and so Jesus is plan B. No, God shows us that any way we would have tried would never have worked, and we'll talk about that other times. I think we talked about it at Determined Conference last year, about that's the record of the Old Testament. But God has a plan. And so as we read through his word, we always need to remember Jesus is the plan. Jesus is the plan. And so we get to right here, and we need to remember God has a plan. I say God has a rescue plan. There's this curriculum I wrote, and that's my over and over and over I repeat until everybody gets it and can repeat it with me, that God has a rescue plan. His rescue plan has a name. His name is Jesus. That's the end part, but there's this whole thing we go through, and I repeat it every week, so everybody gives you the whole story of the Bible. So you just need to always remember God has a plan. Jesus is his name. Jesus is the name of the plan, and that's where we're headed. That's what's going on, and what God's doing. So the plan will happen. The plan will happen. I mean, we're on this end of it, and we know that the plan will happen. God has made promises. The promises are part of the plan. He will keep his promises. And we talked about that the other day. God's hand is at work at all times and in all places. Two verses I want you to go to. Now, I reference these a lot, but first we're going to, as always, I should have labeled this, but I didn't. So, here we go. We're going to, Habakkuk. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 5. It says this: look among the nations and see and wonder and be astounded. I love that. Look, see, wonder, be astounded. For I am doing a work in your days that you would not believe if told. And that's God's discussion with Habakkuk when Habakkuk questions about what in the world is going on. The world's gone crazy. God says, look and see, wonder, and be astounded. I'm doing a work in your day that even if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. I am doing a work even when it doesn't make sense to you. I have a plan. I am at work. So you see that. And so remember I talked the other day about precepts that we learn how God works. And when we understand that God is the same and he will still work the same way. So another place to look is in Acts chapter 17. So go there. This is one I use a lot. I actually used it in my personal finance class that I teach a personal finance class at school. And I used it with them the other day. But I usually use it with my history students. I love this. And it says in Acts 17, verse 26. And he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place, that they should seek God. So that God has placed everyone on this earth and has determined their allotted periods. And I always tell my students, okay, allotted periods of time. What is that called? It's like a timeline. A timeline. And boundaries of dwelling places. If you had a picture of boundaries of dwelling places, what would that be called? A map, Mrs. Nance? Yes, a map. That God has his hand at work in all places and in all times for his plan and his purpose. And if we had longer, we would talk more about, God designs the continents to be the way they are. He's designed, it's an amazing thing if we stop and think about how God's hand is at work. So, back to Joseph. So, this dysfunction, here you have, we talked about Joseph and his crazy brothers yesterday. So here you have this dysfunctional family, full of disjointed brothers that God is going to use to bring forth the Messiah. They can't even sit at the same dinner table without them trying to kill their brother off. And Messiah is supposed to come through them? How in the world? Okay, so think about this. You have these brothers who have such crazy stories. They're out killing people who wronged them. They're trying to get away from covenant promises they've made. They're falling into sexual immorality. They're doing all of these things, but yet they're supposed to be a united group. And then the last time they were all really together, they sold Joseph into slavery after deciding, let's not kill him. Yeah, yes. And you thought your Christmas dinner table was crazy. I mean, this is. So, slow down. I want you to, as I say, zoom out a little bit and let's talk. So, I want you to see that as those verses in Habakkuk and Acts have shown us about the hand of God. So, God used the hatred by his brothers to bring Joseph to Egypt. God used a false accusation to put Joseph in prison. God used forgotten dreams to put Joseph in command. God will use a famine to bring the brothers to Egypt. And what we will watch is as the story of Genesis will close and the story of Exodus will open, that God will take they become 12 tribes, but he's going to take 12 brothers and he's going to place them in a place where they're hated. They liked Joseph. Because Joseph looked Egyptian. But they didn't like shepherds. And this is a whole cultural discussion and ancient history lesson. They were given land and they will be set apart where the only thing they have is each other. And their families will grow and grow and grow. And the only thing they'll know is we are the people of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And God will use every circumstance to bind them together. And he still does the same. God still works. His hand is at work. God will use this nation that God will make to bring us Jesus. We need to learn to trust his plan and that he knows what he's doing. He's given us record of it. if we would look and see how his hand is at work in history and remember that his hand is still at work today. So we'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.